Okay, so this video is longer than I was intending, but that's fine. It really helps paint a picture, I think. So that's kind of my background of what I understand to be human history, Egyptian history, from what I know. There's a lot more that I don't know, especially the human part of the ancient Egyptian history. So like from the flood onward, I'm super unfamiliar with, other than what I've studied, because I was gone by that point. In one of my lifetimes, I was here using the pyramid and teaching people how to use the pyramid for spiritual transformation, which is one of the main reasons it was built. It has many reasons, but that was one of them. And I was kind of the designee, so to speak, especially during that time period, for evolutionary transformation of humans primarily, but also other beings. Although my twin at the time was more the designee of foreign affairs, so to speak, so he would help the ETs more so than I would, but also ETs, whether during the time I was there or any time, could visit the pyramid and use it if they knew how. So that would happen, especially after it was first created. It was mostly visited by foreign, what we would consider foreign intelligences and beings, then eventually used for human growth, which is really what it was built for, and also to help stabilize energy on the planet for millennia, we're talking. So it's got a big deal to it. There's a reason why it draws so much attention, and it is so fascinating in its structure as well as history, right? Energy. So that's about all that I have to say about that. So I was directing energy through the pyramid down to the earth. First, I tried to send it out through the pyramid, but I was like, I need to be really specific with this, since all of these intentions with this specific meditation today have been very specific, and I'm inviting other energy into with me. So I wanted to be as specific as possible. So my mind jumped first to the pyramid. I can always see it. And it's funny because, like, I think I see it in real time. It's always dark when I'm inside it, which makes sense. But usually I'm during the day, right, when I'm doing this, usually. So a lot of times when I visualize it, it's like nighttime. It just is. So it kind of makes sense because it's on the other side of the world. Super interesting. Just side note, may or may not be relevant. Who knows? It's interesting. Take what resonates and leave the rest, as they say on YouTube. Look at me, I'm a star. Sorry, that was just a little joke. I'm not trying to make fun of anyone. If it sounds that way, I apologize. I've actually learned quite a lot from YouTube and YouTubers, so no hate at all. I'm just different in my approach, that's all. And but we all have a purpose, don't we? Because they're helping people that need help too. It's really interesting. Anyway, so I was directing energy in my meditation after I collected it all, kind of jumped over to the tip of the pyramid to like help spread it out. So not just through the earth and into the roots and through the soils of all over the globe. So I was sending it through the core of the earth, into the earth itself, to the surface. Rocks, greenery, grass, dirt, through the plants, and also from the stars, right? Bringing that energy in, all the energy, all the love, all the universe, all of the well wishes, let's say, blessing, wishing for blessing, focusing on specific things like coming from divine, coming from earth, the realness, the physical, all of it, bringing it together, sending it through the earth and spreading it outward into the air. So like through the earth, through the surface, through the dirt, through the air. So like inward, outward to the atmosphere, spreading it that way. And then I saw the tip of the pyramid and was like, let's direct it through the pyramid into the atmosphere. But I jumped too far ahead, so I was like, I saw the tip and I was like, no. We need to direct and visualize this whole route. So I tried to, as my best, to visualize going with the energy to the core of the earth, from that point, almost like a V, going from there to the surface where the pyramid Giza is, and putting the energy into the whole pyramid itself and letting it disperse from the tip outward. At that moment, that's when I started to see the lines like fireworks. I can draw it for you. It started in where around Egypt was and looked sort of like this to me. and they almost had like motion to them, like they were blossoming, and like fire. They look like fireworks, and it's kind of like spreading outward, and growing like a web. So that was like a flash of that. So I didn't like see a ton of it, but I saw the growth part of it and expansion. But that kind of shifted into another thing. So that's when that was happening. And then around that time, I think I picked up on the redwood trees. Yes, because, yes, cinnamon bark just stuck into my mind, and I could see it and smell it. I could see the bark of a tree literally falling off the tree. So first I was seeing like bark actually, and then cinnamon bark really came to mind for some reason. So that's why I wrote it down. And then I wrote down like the spreading energy through the pyramid tip. So I was getting an image of bark, tree bark, somehow connecting to the concept of the spreading of energy outward. So that's when, in my note taking, I wrote down sense, spread awareness of energy, which is something I understood more, I think, as I was taking the notes rather than in real time. But they were bringing my attention in the meditation to scent and oil. So I wrote down cinnamon oil. I'm curious to see if there's a connection between cinnamon and redwood trees. So I'm going to Google that momentarily and just see, and this is why I wanted to do all this for you on video, to show you my process and to see like what experimentation looks like, growing your developing abilities. What does that look like? What is comfortable? What is not? What do you try out? How do you try things in a safe way kind of thing, or determine where you should go in like a general, maybe this might work for me and let's try it, apply here and see how we feel kind of idea. So that explains all that pretty well. And then that was around the time that I saw Magnus, my snake. So he has this pattern of like lines on him, which kind of look like this. If I'm remembering right, they kind of separate. So he's a black snake, California king snake. And he's got these white patterns of dots and lines. Beautiful creature. So that really stuck out to me. And because in my meditations with the energy work, I do my energy chakras myself, and with what I was doing today with the globe, I started with myself, did my energy centers, then spread the intention and all of that energy that had accumulated outward. So the reason why that's important to the color pattern of my snake, because he's black and white, because when I visualize coming from the core of the earth up, like the roots and the plants and snakes, energy, and energy coming from the sky, the heavens, starlight, sunlight, universe, space, bringing those two seeming opposites together. Black and white, polarity. It's not black and white, they always say. That's your basic reference to polarity. We live in a bipolar universe. The planet is bipolar. North, South Pole. So, interesting, isn't it? So that's how that works. And black and white are those kind of, they reference and symbolize the extremities of choice or existence, right? Of what is. And it references Kundalini, which just is an old term, Sanskrit term, which has totally lost its meaning pretty much now. It means something very much more artificial and superficial than it actually means. So it's lost its meaning, like ascension and like, there's all kinds of words they throw out, like psychic, medium. I hate those words because they have all these attachments to them that aren't always fully accurate or fully encompassing, like religion can be for concepts of things like God. Like, that's why we all argue about religion and stuff, because they can't always be fully encompassing of what that energy really is, because it's just too complex, right? But we can understand it, we can tap into it through symbology or metaphors or descriptions, but there is a limit there to definition, right? So that's important. So they were referencing Kundalini for me because I've been practicing an exercise that relates to Kundalini, which just means essentially the activation of all your energy centers. And I do that through, and I do the corresponding colors, and I bring up the snakes through my prana center tubes, and there's the prana tube and there's another tube. So you bring those up through those, visualizing. And I do the colors in the black and white. And the two snakes that you visualize in this technique, one is black and one is white. They're also snakes. So then I was bringing my attention to my Magnus came up in my mind, and I saw him, and I was like, well, this is not a coincidence that he is my snake, or he's come into my experience, and he has all these visual representations of the things that I'm doing and have been doing for a few weeks now. The 7 dots he has, which I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they separate by line, but there are groups. I've noticed at least one group on him where there's like 4 dots, and then a line, and then 3. So it's split, but it's 7. And it's referencing the 7 chakras. And the line in between can represent that bridge of the connection of the heart in between the two. So fascinating, right? And so that was the lines and 7 dots revelation. So pretty cool. Yeah, so we're about getting through all this. See, this can be a lot. Just one simple 10-12 minute meditation can ring a lot. Yeah, we're about to wrap this up. This one's finished. Okay. Yeah, let's get into this next. Okay. All right, so then the next thing that I guess were happening, let's just move on, but I feel like probably the next thing that happened more or less was I started to notice the presence of other beings that I have connected with in the past few years who feel very familiar to me, like friends and family. So I've written down ET friends and energetic being friends, because I'm not sure if all of them have a physical body or not. Maybe not all of them do. But some of them I think are still living as alien, what we would consider alien. And I've also shared lives with some of them. Some of them I think are still living in bodies, and they communicate with me sometimes. But I'm still kind of like, I don't really know them fully, so it's still somewhat, I'm in the fog about it, so I only know so much. But they've been making their awareness known to me, and I haven't really contacted these specific ones and had interactions with them in a long time. We've had presence awareness interactions maybe once or twice in the last few years, maybe the last 6 to 12 months actually. But other than that, I haven't communicated with them, and then they became aware to me today again. And these were the several beings of which I could recognize. There might have been a lot more that I don't remember and couldn't see, but there were several of them that said that were making me feel like we were reuniting, especially because, not because I was aware of them for the first time, but because of where I'm at, and I'm healing, and I'm becoming very fully present in myself and all of that stuff. So I'm transforming myself every day and getting better and better every day as much as I possibly can. Being gentle with myself and allowing room for growth and allowing room for step backs, which are natural, and all this stuff. But I got a feeling of reunion, and the reason was it's like it's when they say, and are happy to see me reawaken, because that's why they were so excited to see me this time and communicate with me this time, because of where I am now. So that's very important. And then I got a sense of, this is where I wrote, watch me go dive into Earth, into the world of Earth, and do this very difficult life that I've chosen, I told them. So I think there was some kind of farewell where I departed from them. Oh my gosh, this is making so much sense. This would have been when I arrived in Egypt. This is making so much sense. I'm sorry if this doesn't make a lot of sense to you. Time is not always what we understand it to be, and not all beings live to be the lifespans that we would assume. So things can live to be very long, according to our time span, or very short, like insects. So just keep that in mind. So I'm sorry if some of this bothers you, but I'm just going to keep talking about it, my experience. So this makes so much sense though, because this had to have been the time, because I got the feeling in the meditation of leaving people that I had been helping for a long time and living with and assisting. And by helping, I really just feel like that was mostly, almost like I'm a muse for people. Like I help people focus on the positive and hopeful things to help them transform themselves, more or less. I don't remember the things I was doing with these groups and individual other beings, extraterrestrials. I don't remember any of that, any of those details. All I know is that they've told me that I was there helping them at that time, and they're here as guides for me here now, helping me just because they want to. And it's also like a return. You scratch my back, I scratch yours, but without the human attachment of, you owe me this. I've done this for you, so now I deserve this. Leave that out of it, because this is all done out of love. But now that they are in a place through their development to help me, they're choosing to help me. And so we kind of had agreed upon this before I left. So I had a feeling of leaving these people, these beings, which makes sense because I don't think I was born here in my last lifetime. I felt that for a long time. I arrived here. So all of this makes a lot of sense. For me anyway. And so it was like a reunion. I said, watch me go dive in. So I was getting a feeling of like my soul or whatever, energy, body, or being, alien being, whatever I was, all of the above, leaving some of these entities to go to Earth, to join the experiment, to do my part in it. So I said, watch what I'm about to do. I'm going now. See ya. So then I left them. So there was fear with some of the individuals, especially those incarnate into individual form, like bodies, like aliens, because some of them were still on the path of evolution and awareness. So they could understand what I was saying, but some of them still had fear for me because it was a dangerous, depending on where your awareness is, it would look, well, to anyone, to be dangerous what I was setting out to do here today. Because this was all done for my lifetime now, more or less. But my first arrival was a long-ass time ago as a visitor to help. So I left them and I said, watch me go do this. From that point, from that lifetime on, I did get stuck here, which is not really relevant to, and I don't really want to get into in this video because it's a very complex subject. And I have a lot of opinions on it that probably are very scrupulous and discriminatory in very specific ways that differ a little bit from mainstream media and New Age mentality in very specific ways. So they relate, but also there's a lot of specifics I'd like to get into in the future. So be that as it may. I said, watch me go do this, and I came to Earth to do things. The nature of Earth is sort of one of more or less entrapment, right? We come here to experience what it's like to not be in the presence of love and light. Because otherwise, outside this universe and inside this universe, like in my notes as they say, all is love and light and energy. It's inescapable. So you can turn your back from it, but only really in this physical universe. It's a little more than that. But in our observable universe, it can only happen here. And specifically, this planet is the place to be for that specific journey because it's where the most growth can happen and is happening. The most transformation in the universe physically is happening here. That's why there are so many humans alive today and population bursts, not really problems, but there are definitely bursts in population. We're not overpopulated in my opinion, but there sure are a hell of a lot of us that are here and want to be here. There's reasons for that. There's also reasons why UFO sightings and conspiracies relating to things of aliens and alien sightings. There's a reason for that, and there's a reason for the presence of, there are millions of aliens around the planet. That might surprise some of us, and many people might not believe that because you can't see them. But a lot of them have ways of cloaking themselves or entering into vibrations where they can't be seen, where you would just miss them or not even see them at all. If a UFO is spotted, it is spotted on purpose. Let's just say that. If someone sees a UFO, they were meant to themselves as well as they were being appealed to by outside beings. So it's two-way street. Only people that see UFOs are ones who are ready or ready for a life-changing experience. And it also correlates to those who that they see in the ship. So those energy beings or alien beings, whatever they are, who have consciousness, are trying to reach those who are ready. So they meet, and the UFO sighting happens. That's how that works. Otherwise, they can use technology to cloak themselves. They can use technology to do misting, cloud camouflage. I've heard it all. They can also jump dimensions, like the Bigfoot and Yeti, and things like that we understand of as mermaids and Loch Ness, things like of that nature, Chupacabra. So there are definitely things that can come and go, which is where we get some of our myths from. Some of them are not so good, some of them are wonderful, like fairies. A lot of them are gone now in other places, so they don't come here anymore. Some of them pop in and say, what's going on here? Here's an interesting human, like Bigfoot. Is any of this making sense? I hope so. So this is how this kind of works energetically speaking, interdimensionally speaking. It very much correlates to how Native Americans are purported to, many of them, if any, maybe some of the spiritual elders, council elders, and the shamans could see the ships coming, but mostly none of the Native Americans could visually see the ships arriving. They couldn't see them on the water. All they could see was waves being made. Because of their awareness at the time, they didn't have anything to understand something of that size and of that magnitude and why is it coming. So they weren't really expecting it. All they could see and notice and expect was changes coming for the most part. Maybe some of them were tuned in enough to see more of what was coming. But in general, and this is a phenomenon that's being explored, a phenomenon that's being explored today. It's kind of like how cells can interact even though you split them apart and take them in miles apart in different laboratories and they interact with one another. It's a very similar occurrence. We're connected to energy, and so they could only see what they were able to connect to, and they were not able to connect to these ships for various reasons, so they couldn't see them. And I believe that this information, I believe, has been spread down also through Native American storytelling, but I'm not sure about that. I don't know that for sure, but I assume. I've heard this source from other sources, energy sources, of the waves in particular, that occurrence, and not seeing the ships. But it's very much a similar thing with the UFOs. If we're not ready for it, we won't see it. I've actually never seen a UFO, and I'm quite open to it. But then again, I probably don't need to see it, because I already believe in it, so it's just not something that I need to experience, or it's not really in my cards right now. Actually, it's in my cards in the future to meet with some of these beings and to have counsel. And part of my mission here, so to speak, on Earth is to be ambassador for Earth. One of them, we'll have many, but I'm one of the ambassadors for humans on Earth and for the planet itself, particularly human society, because I can't direct what the planet does, but we're here, and I'm here as an ambassador for humanitarian reasons first in humanity, and also as it relates to the planet, so the planetary well-being as it relates to human involvement, right? Because that's all I can really affect and what I'm here for, and need to be here for. Don't need to be here for anyone else really, other than us and myself. So that's why I'm here, and I'm a sort of an ambassador. So in my future, I do see myself going on ships and like being on like the news. Like I've literally had visions of this where like I leave to go on a ship and people are like, don't do that, and I'm like, it's fine, I'm coming back. So then we'll go and do our thing, have a council, do whatever. They show me whatever, I show them my whatever. When we talk, we discuss, we what's that word, deliberate, and then we come up with things, and then I will come back to Earth in the future and discuss. So I'm like, just like I'm a medium, I'm kind of like an mediator between humanity and other types of beings, primarily only those beings who are consciously evolved past violence. So that's kind of a stipulation for me. There are definitely other aliens that exist, and I'm also here for their upliftment, but it's probably more of a distant upliftment. I'm only here for those who meet me on my level, which is one of peace and understanding and acceptance and growth. So either way, I'm teaching that and here to help people learn about that through my own experience and watching me in my challenges as a trans woman, for example. But I've gone through a lot of challenges in my life that people have probably noticed the effects of outwardly. Like, I've had a lot of health problems in my life. I've almost died on several different instances, actually. I've wanted to die many times in my life. Yes, so it's not been in the cards for me to die so young, though, because of my desire to be here for the growth of humanity. I'm here to see humans through a specific set point. So if I die, I can't do that. So I've tried to be very careful and I've really pushed the boundary on this, and I've almost died a few times. But that's kind of what I came here to do, is to learn. But the whole point was for me to never die, actually. In those moments, I'm going to die eventually, of course, but I was not meant to die early, but I probably was meant to come close to death. I think I pushed it a little farther than I intended to, but I'm still here, so hooray. I was intended to be here, and so it is. If I wasn't meant to be here, I wouldn't be. So that's a lot of my purpose, too. So I'm very invested in humanity and invested in keeping myself alive for the upliftment of others. But in order to do that effectively or at all, I had to go through pain and challenge and heal myself, which I'm doing now. So I'm getting ready to teach that. But just by people watching my life experience, I believe that they learn from that, seeing it, whether they know about my life or not. I think you can kind of see it on the outside a little bit. For sure. And like now I've been told I shine a lot more. I'm radiant. I glow. So people see me changing. So that's very important. So it's not always that I work directly with people, but that is my purpose. So that's what I'm focused on, working directly with people this time, more than I have in the past. My past lives has been more, much more behind the scenes in my past lives than I am today. So that's kind of the point of my life, is to learn how to come out of the woodwork and darkness into the light myself and to the public eye, to help understand these kinds of transformational processes, right? And inspire others to do the same for themselves. So that's a little bit about me. And so that's kind of what they were touching on. When I was remembering, watch me go dive into Earth and do this, some of them, my friends, were fearful to watch me do what I was about to do. But they also trusted me. Trust is the big word. So some of them might have had fear, but they were advanced enough to resonate. I wrote down with my notes here, resonated with the light. Some feared for me, but knew I was meant to do this. Later in my notes, I wrote, resonated with the light. My friends that I'm referencing, some of them, they feared for me in what I was about to embark upon, because it could be seemingly dangerous for me. And it was a big risk, let's say. But they knew I was meant to do this. They resonated with the light within me. And then what I mean by light within me there is they could resonate and recognize that it was part of my path. And they knew that it was right for me, even if it felt somewhat wrong for them or scary to them for something like that to happen or to try to attempt to do. So basically what I've done in my life is try to attempt to use this platform of Earth and the universe, physical universe and all of it, to use it as much as I possibly can. So to really take those extremes. So like the whole point of this place is to experience pain and suffering and the possibility of that and what that feels like. Hate, attack, all of those things are not possible in spirit, ultimately speaking. In this universe, some of that is not true in terms of, what is that called? The A word. Shoot. Astral plane, thank you. And so it can occur in spiritual realms, but in the nature of spirit, it is not a natural occurrence, okay? It can only occur negatively in this universe. So that's something to note. That's what the first dimension here is all about. So forces, it's all about force. So when I wrote down, I'm getting so tired, I haven't eaten yet, but I really want to get all this out. So my friends, I go on to say, they're happy to see me reawaken. What I'm writing there is the moment in the meditation where we see each other and interact again. It's not the first time we've interacted, but there's a recognition on their part and on my part. I recognize that they're recognizing me where I'm at, and I'm starting to realize I am where I should be, basically. And they were excited about that because I'm right where I need to be. There's no need to worry for some of them, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what I was getting now. And it will help signal the marker that all are ascending. So this kind of means to me, especially for my friends and for beings on the outside of the planet and consciousnesses that are watching the experiment but may not be participating directly, but are a part of the observation. Not all of them, but some of them, a lot of them are watching me, but not all of them. What I mean by I am a marker for some, it's just for a select few of these collectives. But some of them, when they watch me, it is their signal from what I am doing with my life currently today. And they watch me energetically, and they watch me here. And the fact that where I'm at now, physically, mentally, all of the above, they're watching me, and the physical product, you're glowing, Indy, you're radiant now, you look so much more, you have so much more spirit in you. My physical representation of overcoming extreme pain and challenge to near death to a place of heightened comfort, security, and awareness and self-love, which is where I'm reaching now. I'm really getting to that level now and starting to stabilize that more fully. So that's where I'm at now, and myself. And that's kind of what they're referencing. It's a physical representation to some individuals on the outside, like, okay, this is a mark. It's like you would put a pin on like a timeline. Like, okay, here is a significant point. Here is a point where we can see in one individual a physical occurrence that is reminiscent, or that is telling of the vibration of the planet. Does that make sense? I hope so. That's what I meant by that all are ascending. It's a physical representation that not only can all of us do this, like Jesus did, but we all are. And there's proof of that every day in all of us. So for some individuals, seeing my specific example in my life is a way of waking up that marker point. We've gotten here at least, and we're okay, kind of thing. Things are moving in an upward direction, sort of a physical measurement of that. Okay. But we're all doing it, and it's not just me. So this is just a specific occurrence with me. This happens every day to everyone. There are moments in everyone's lives where they connect. So it's not just happening to me, but where I'm at in my life with my intentions and in the expressions of my life physically today, where my health is at, mentally, physically, all of the above, spiritually, is a marker to some that we're into a different sort of accelerating stage now of ascension, even though I hate that word. It just means evolution or growing of awareness. And like I was saying, Neanderthals had awareness too. Just because they had less than some other beings or today's humans doesn't make them less significant, less dumb, less important, less evolved. They could actually have been more spiritually evolved than humans today. So I really want to try to teach and get us away from this hierarchy, even though it can be helpful to understand things like the seraphim, angels, to understand kind of where they might be, what they do. It can be helpful to organize, but when you attach too much to hierarchy and linear and forget how complex and multi-dimensional everything is, you really lose a lot of the meaning of life itself. So that's kind of why we're all here, is to kind of forget the meaning of life, if you will, and then find it again. So that's kind of what I'm going through personally right now as an individual. I'm finding myself, which I've never have done before here. So it's like, whoa, expansive. And I'm trying to keep that up and really take that to the next level. So that's where we all are at collectively, is heading to this direction, because we're all going at our own rate. And that's why I wrote down in my notes proportionally. I don't think I read that out loud, but I wrote it into my notes that all are ascending, in parentheses, proportionally. So we all go at our individual rates. So it's not about who does what and when. So they've reached this level, now they can go on to the next. It's not really like that at all. But we are living in a time where it's accelerated, so it's going to be happening at an individual rate, but much more quickly than it would have in the past. It already has been, and now we're reaching an even higher rate of acceleration. So, some people watching me on the outside, some beings, it's where I'm at now in my physical life is a marker of where we are as a whole and where we are getting ready to head to in the next 10, 15 years collectively as more of a majority. In like the next 10, 15 years, there will be a lot more people experiencing what I'm experiencing now as a whole, and we'll be talking about it. Medicine will be astronomically different in 10 years. All of those things. Travel will be astronomically different in 15 to 20 years. Okay, so, and then after that, I've written down scoping out to see the entire multiverse. So in my meditation, I zoomed out to see the entire universe, and it wasn't just a visual, it was more of like an understanding of like where we are, the angels are talking about, or God, if you will, or the universe, whatever you're comfortable with. Science even can be a replacement for that label. Evolution, energy, it's all the same. Excuse me. I already explained that part. Because, okay, so I had a monumental, profound experience in this meditation. It's all energy, which I already have learned, but I was really understanding it fully in a way I never had before. I was feeling it in the meditation and really knowing it, really understanding it. It really is all energy, and it all starts with energy, and it all ends in energy, and it always is energy. All of our problems first start in energy. It's all energy. And I was really seeing that and scoping out. And when you do that, when you scope out and you can stay there, all of the problems dissipate. They fade away because you understand everything. And from that scope vantage point, there really are no problems. You can see problems and you can recognize, oh, I can see that individual might be having a problem that they feel is a problem. And we can see from our heightened awareness of angels that could be a problem to you. But the way that angels, for example, the seraphim, they don't experience negativity. So they would not experience worry. They would not experience disappointment. They don't experience shame or guilt. They don't experience judgment. So they can recognize pain. They see it, but they don't see it as pain. So that's difficult for us to understand because it kind of seems like, well, they would just be ignoring our pain. It's kind of what it feels like, but that's not what it is. Because from their perspective, it's almost as like if you see a child throwing a tantrum, and if you might laugh at them almost and be like, because you know it's like just a silly tantrum and they're throwing a big tantrum over something very small. And you know that they're going to grow past it and see the bigger picture very soon. Maybe even moments later. And you laugh because it's silly to witness someone who is lesser evolved, let's say, even though it doesn't matter, and they're learning something. It's cute when the child falls and stumbles like, oh my gosh, you know, like me. Even though to the child it's like, oh my gosh, that was a little scary, a little tumble. We might laugh at a little like knee bend or something, or like a little wobble, like it's funny. It's cute because we're standing at a higher vantage point and we understand where they're going, that they're going to be fine. They'll walk. If they have a disability, they'll be fine. We can get them accessories to help them in their disability so that they are capable as possible, right? So it's like we know everything's going to be okay, or it's going to be okay as possible. There's always going to be some kind of something to do. There's going to be more. There's always more. So we laugh and we say, oh, we're so lighthearted about a seeming pain in a child. So it's very much the same here, except for it's very extreme. We go through extreme torture, extreme murder, extreme abuse, extreme rape, extreme enslavement. extreme torture. But from a spiritual perspective, from the angel's perspective, they don't see it that way. They see everything as what it is, which is love. From our perspective, as we are immersed in it, kind of hard to see the love aspect, because even though all is love and energy, there are players and playees who come into this who use that energy to turn away from light and love and use energy in a direction that is not light and love. But, and this is a profound thing that happened to me in my meditation, something that I already knew, but it was just a logical understanding. It really started to, I felt it, and I'm really knowing it now because I experienced it. It was about the time they were saying where we are, because I was realizing, and this is not the first time, but I was realizing I was where they were, and they were helping me further my understanding by telling me with a phone analogy, hello, it's like you're calling up here, because they were saying, and I knew this already, but I was getting a greater understanding of it, you have to come to us where we are. Abraham Hicks says that all the time. We're always here for you, and we're always there for you, and we're always sending you love and light, but you have to come to us in order to receive it and to translate it into meaning or physical circumstances, for example, like blessings or miracles. So you have to meet them where they are. If you're in a place of lack and all I know is hate and all I know is fear and all I know is abuse, then it's very hard to leave that. We know that. We know it's very hard to leave an abusive pattern of genealogy, like alcoholism or abuse, physical abuse. It's hard to leave those patterns. But it is possible. And in my meditation, I reached a bigger understanding of this, and I could feel it. It's like I really could feel like I was where they were energetically. Like I was there with them, and they were telling me, you are here with us, where we are, and you can be here too, which I knew. It's what you do in meditation. It's what we do at channeling. If you're channeling angelic things or deceased beings, their highest soul aspect, not the lower soul aspects. But if you're channeling a deceased human who is from their fullest form, and you can tell the difference by the energy of their message and where they're coming from, they're divine. And where was I going with that? You can reach that. Mediums reach it. That's how we access the dead. That's the preferred way anyway. The more natural way, the more healthy, easy, natural way. But you can access it, and I was feeling it. I was breaching their realms, right? Almost, and it was like forming in my mind visually like the gates of heaven in clouds. But it was just a symbol to like symbolize like I'm in an energetic realm with my brain and energy body and my focus, my awareness, even though my body is here. My energy and awareness is there with them. But the big thing that I experienced for the first time so fully was my body is here and I'm there. But just by the very fact that I can reach there in my meditation and join them in the pure divinity, feelings of love, and I'm smiling and I'm like, everything's gonna be okay. Mama's here kind of vibes, you know? Or grandma's here, or grandpa's here, whoever is that sense of comfort to you. Your best friend is here to help you in your worst times kind of feeling. It's all gonna be okay. I realized that in my body, anytime, I can go within and reach this place, whether I'm subconsciously meditating, so my brain waves are less active in this reality. But you can also, if you can do it then, you can do it in your waking life too. So she was really pointing out to me, and I was really feeling it and realizing it and seeing it and understanding it fully. We are where we are, and you can be here too. It's all energy. You have to call up here. And the phone rings here as if it's in heaven. And we answer the phone, we pick it up and we say hello. Because we are here. You have to come to us. But we are always talking to you. But when you call us, it rings and we can pick it up. And that's when we connect. but we're always on the line for you, sending you voicemails, metaphorically speaking. Where we are and where you can be too, you can be here too. That's what I learned in that experience. I can be there too. It reminded me a lot, and I wrote in my notes, of The Village movie by M. Night Shyamalan. I like the movie a lot. I know there's debate about it, but who cares about your opinions? It's more so like, if you've seen it, basically more or less like there's these things that exist in the outside world that they're unaware of the whole time that they're living in their own community, more or less. And this is exactly what incarnating on Earth and living as a human is like. We feel like Neanderthals. We feel helpless a lot of the time. We feel separated and isolated and fearful, and it's a scary world out there, right? Anything can happen. I'm so alone. These are common feelings, right? That's why we reach for spouses and money and power roles to feel at home, right? To feel comfortable. Sometimes I would channel just to get that feeling. I'm not gonna lie. I can't lie, and I won't lie to people. Sometimes it feels good to channel, and in my past, when I was hurting, it was nice. Okay? So, that's a little bit of that. So if you've seen that movie, it's very much like that, where we don't understand things, and then we step out and we're like, oh my gosh, there's all of this out here that exists. Things that do things I don't even understand. Whoa. So it's kind of like that, stepping out of this. It's as if you were in like a village that lives as if it's in the 1800s, but it's actually present day 2021. And we find out, oh, there's this tribe in America that has somehow been left away from other Americans and untouched somehow. And they're like white settlers, let's say, because it's a very specific example. Let's say they're Puritans from long ago, and they somehow got separated from society and kept themselves that way, and were never found and never ventured outward. And they were still living like they did generations back in 1800. And they never saw any planes or anything, let's just say hypothetically. They had no exposure. And we're continuing to live today in 2021, I mean, the end of 2021, as if it were the same present time of 1800s because of the way they've been continuing to live. So imagine if a community like that was made aware to us on the news. Like, you imagine that story came up on the news and you're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. That is like what it's like to die. Okay? I hope that's helpful. It's just further realization. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so much more. What is all this? There is no real death. There is no real loss of anything. There's just newness and more. So that's really explaining all those phrases I wrote down, because it's all here. So the reason why I can, where we are, and you can be here too, because it's all here. The place, it's all here. The energy, all of it. It's what we mean by here. And by that, I mean, it's literally everything, and it's in everything, and it's everyone and everything and everywhere. It's inescapable, it's energy, it's pervasive, it's infinite, and it's infinitely expansive. Just like science says, you cannot create nor destroy. It continually expands into more itself, naturally. Evolution shows you that. Adaptation and evolution will show you that. It happens in the physical just as it does in the energy. So, because it's all here, even though it feels like you're separate and in despair, you can access the nature of all things, because that's all there is. And the very fact that you are that and you come from that, and you've turned your back from it, whether you know it or not, doesn't matter. To experience pain, whether you know that or not, doesn't matter. Whether you know why or not is irrelevant. It can be very real to us, and it is real. It's not that it isn't real at all. It's just that the nature of reality is not what we understand it to be. The nature of reality. We base our nature of reality off of what we habitually experience, which is not natural. What we experience here, let me tell you, it's not natural. It's only natural for us because we're used to it. That's why we're here, to experience unnatural things. Okay? So because we come from that, we are that, we're made up of that. And even everything here is made up of that same energy, love. But it feels separate. I'm not this lighter. It doesn't feel like it. Technically, we're all the same. And technically, I've created this with my energy. Even if you create a Big Mac meal by thinking, oh, I'm hungry, you know what? I'll go to McDonald's down the road, get a Big Mac meal. You've created that Big Mac meal. Maybe you didn't create it with your hands, but you manifested it. So we're talking about manifestation here in energy, which can be, the manifestation of energy is endless and it's inescapable. The manifestation of physical with your own physical hands is a choice, but both can establish results. So we as a humanity have leaned on using our hands, our physical sciences, to determine the measurements so that we understand things. But in the nature of existence, it's backwards. There is the nature of existence itself, and then the, what do you call that? The incarnation or the representation physically of that energy, which is first and foremost and always will be everlasting, eternal. The creations themselves, the physical, are temporary. This body, these glasses might break one day. This paper is going to deteriorate sooner than any of these other items. Temporary. We all die, but our souls remain, and many of us know that at this point. Some of us know it or want to know it and want to believe it and just don't know how to. But a lot of us are on that path of like, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be something bigger that I don't understand. That has to do with the collective. That has to do with nature and the growth of the planet and all life and trees and all that nonsense. And how are all these planets here in this universe, and how do they all have atmospheric conditions that can be hospitable to life? And there's tons of planets. All planets are hospitable to life. We just have a weird definition of what life is in terms of biology. But things are adaptable, and anything can live in anything, let's say. So, like germs or something like that. If you understand, like cockroaches can survive things, but I'm talking about like mold. If you think about it, like there are things that can survive. There's also like certain germs or something that can survive things. Like things can live in conditions if they want to and adapt to. It's all about their focus of energy and where they've come from and where they're wanting to go. Now, how to wrap this up? This is good. This is good. This is a great discussion we're having. Thanks for joining me. Hugs and love. Squeezes and light. I think that I've reached a good stopping point for myself, and I will let you determine the rest for yourself. Yeah. This might be farewell. I'm going to hop on Google to see if I can find anything that's relevant. So I might add a little prologue video. So this could be the end. This could not be the end of the video. But if it is, I love you and I'll see you next time.